All right, man, peace. So Mr. Dez Bryant is the talk of the town because he was recently released by the Dallas Cowboys. As most of us could see coming, there was so much outside pressure on the Dallas Cowboys from their fan base, especially due to the fact that the Dallas Cowboys probably have the most media fans of any team in the National Football League, and many of them were looking for someone to blame, that person being Mr. Dez Bryant. Well, as I stated in the original video that I did on Dez being released from the Cowboys, he's not going to go quietly into that good night. Dez Bryant is that dude who someone picked up off the street. He was homeless. They cleaned him up. They let him stay in their basement, and now he's getting evicted, and he does not want to go back out onto the street because he's still not sure that he can make it on his own. That's really what the issue is with this brother. And he's going to have to learn to deal with the fact that his tenure as a Dallas Cowboy is over. But as I stated in my original video, do not be surprised if he signs with someone in the division, and he's going to blatantly state that in this video. I believe that he may land with the New York Giants. Why is that? Because if I remember correctly, they no longer have Brandon Marshall. I may be wrong about that. One of you New York Giants fans can correct me, but I do know that he's very good friends with Odell Beckham. Now, Dez is also going to make some statements pertaining to Mr. Dak Prescott. Expect the reality of their bad relationship to start to come to the forefront. Both of them are going to let it be known that they never liked each other in the first place. Do not be surprised. Dez is going to make some allusions to the issues that he had with Dak by alleging that he believes that Dak Prescott is one of the members of the Dallas Cowboy organization that got him ran off the team, which is something that I also stated in the previous video that I did on this topic. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
While the team will forever maintain that Dez Bryant caught that ball against the Packers, today the Cowboys dropped Dez. 8 years in Dallas. A lot of immaturity, mini dramas early. A lot of receptions and TDs in the middle. A lot of injuries and drop-off at the end. Bryant's price would have been $16.5 million against the cap this season. The locker room cost also in question. Bryant, speaking to the NFL Network, doesn't blame owner Jerry Jones for the release, but he blames.
The situation was very unfair to me, and I'll put it that way. It was an unfair situation, because...
You see, the brother is still in a state of denial. He still does not realize that this was in the air. The writing was on the wall for a very long time in regards to his eventual release from the Dallas Cowboys. It was only a matter of time. Many of the quote-unquote pundits in the mainstream liberal sports media, particularly the NFL writers and scribes, were trying to encourage the Dallas Cowboys to let you go, Dez Bryant. You should have seen the writing on the wall, but the reason why he wanted to deny it is because he was another one of these professional athletes that believed in the notion of the family on your sports team. I'm a member of a family. No, you're not. It is a business. You are a part of an organization. And when they feel like you are no longer cutting your weight, they are going to remove you. You are a member of an organization. And when they feel like you are no longer pulling your weight, they're going to remove you. They're going to cut you. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are viewed as the future of the team. I know for a fact that Dak Prescott did not like Dez Bryant. How do I know that? Because after the last game of the season, what did Dak Prescott say? He said, I'm just going to throw it right into his face mask so that he cannot drop it. That's what Dak Prescott said. Your quarterback is not supposed to say that about his top receiver, his second best receiver, or his third best receiver. So it was very clear that Dak Prescott was not a Dez Bryant fan. He did not like this brother at all.
Because if they did want to, get rid of me, they could have told me that.
I think they told you that today, brother. So if you mean that if they wanted to get rid of you, they should have told you at the end of the season as opposed to waiting, I think that the reason why it took so long was because you did have people trying to fight for you. I think that Jerry Jones was trying to fight for you, bro. I think that if it was up to some of your enemies within the organization, you may have been cut during the damn season. If If it was up to Dak, you probably would not have even been a member of the team this past season because he had trouble connecting with you last year.
You know, they could have told me that, and I would have respected that, just like I told Jerry in the meeting. You know, I respect his decision.
There's a narrative being floated out there, Dez, that some teammates had something to do with this decision. Do you have any evidence to support that at this point?
Now listen to what Dez Bryant is going to say in response to the reporters' attempts to, of course, stir the pot because they need something to talk about throughout the offseason. Let me rewind it back a little bit.
That's just like I told Jerry in the meeting. You know, I respect his decision.
There's a narrative being floated out there, Dez, that some teammates had something to do with this decision. Do you have any evidence to support that at this point?
I'll say this right here. I believe that. Garrett guys, I would say that.
Now, he said Garrett guys. What does that mean? That means that he did not get along with Jason Garrett. That's number one. Dez Bryant did not get along with Jason Garrett. And by him using the term Garrett guys, what he's basically stating, he's not implying it, he's stating it, is that there were some divisions in the team that permeated the entire locker room for the entire season and may have been one of the reasons why the Cowboys had such an up and down season. And if you're paying attention throughout the NFL, many of these teams are starting to purge their distractions. That's why it behooves many of these NFL players to toe the company line until they can get to the point where they can try to negotiate this next collective bargaining agreement and try to accrue a little bit more power for themselves if that truly is their goal. I don't know how successful they'll be, but they can try it because these guys get cut like nothing. And they play in the most hazardous of the mainstream sports.
So you're saying Garrett guys worked against you?
I believe that. I truly believe it.
You think that they would have cut you had Dak Prescott gone to bat for you? Of course not. If Dak Prescott would have walked into Jerry Jones's office or Jason Garrett's office and told them point blank, I need Dez Bryant. He's essential to our team, to our offense. Do not let him go. They would have brought you back. Dak Prescott took his big waterhead ass up into Jerry Jones's office and said, look, this guy can't catch a pass. This motherfucker can't catch the flu. If he was in the jungles of the Congo, he couldn't catch Ebola. So we got to let this guy go.
And
do you want to name who Garrett guys are?
I won't put no names out, but they know. And I want them to know on this air that, I know. I'll shoot them a text message and let them know. And little do they know is, they can wear that seat all they want to. But in that locker room, they know who they run and they talk to. They know who they communicate with.
In other words, Dez Bryant is calling Dak Prescott a teacher's pet. That's what he's doing. Because the Dallas Cowboy captains on offense are Jason Witten and Dak Prescott. So who could he be talking about? He's not talking about Jason Witten.
They know where the real love is at.
Where do you want to go, Dez?
Man, I won't say any teams, but being in the division, man, that's a huge possibility. It's a huge possibility. That's something that I want.
Why?
Just because.
Because he wants revenge. So where's he going to go? He's going to go to the New York Giants, most likely. If I be a betting man, that's where he's going to go. Could it be the Redskins? Maybe. But it's most likely going to be the New York Giants. Why do I say that? Because he's very close with Odell Beckham.
Because it's personal.
Adam Schefter with us now on SportsCenter. Adam, I'll make this quick and I'll let you expound. Why?
Well, essentially, this is a league where people pay players that match up with the production. And I think the Dallas Cowboys looked at this and said, we want to pay Zach Martin, the guard. We want to pay DeMarcus Lawrence, our franchise player. We have a wide receiver who's due to make $12.5 million who's not playing at that level. And I think there were people in that building who felt the organization would be better off without Dez Bryant. The last few years, his performance has dropped off. The injuries have piled up. The production has not been there. And if the production is not there, teams are not willing to pay players who don't produce at a top level, top prices. I think there was enough feeling in the building from the medical staff, the training staff, the coaching staff, that they didn't want him around anymore. All the signs pointed to them making this move, but until it actually happened, it was tough to process and imagine because he's such been such a vital part of the Cowboys for so long, Dez has.
So then how come today? Because this isn't a normal day, a normal time of the year when we see stuff like this.
Well, that is an issue, and I think that if the Dallas Cowboys wanted to essentially give Dez Bryant the best chance to catch on at the highest price, this would have been done March 13th, not April 13th. And I think that the Dallas Cowboys were doing what was best for the Dallas Cowboys here.
Now, another reason why they cut him today was because they're about to start their offseason program. And I don't believe that they wanted to have Dez Bryant to possibly have access to certain players who he thought were confederate in him being cut had they waited any longer. But just the fact that they waited this long tells me that there was some battling in the front office of the Dallas Cowboys to decide if they actually wanted to make this move. And this was the latest possible time that they could come to a final decision.
They were going out and exploring the wide receiver market, adding wide receivers through free agency, visiting with wide receivers in the college ranks that are going to be available in the draft. And ultimately they decided this week, right now, this is the time to do it. Dallas Cowboys paid him like a franchise player. They gave him a huge amount of money. So in a sense, you could say they don't really owe him anything, being that they paid him an awful lot the last few years anyway.
Okay, so kind of following along off that answer then, what or where is next for Dez Bryant?
Look, I think that
New York Giants, watch for that.
a lot of the teams that would have needed a wide receiver have gone and signed a wide receiver and spent their money. To me, when you look at it, there's still 4 teams out there that would make some sense. The Arizona Cardinals still could use another wide receiver. The problem is they don't have a lot of money to spend right now.
That's really where he needs to go, because then he can go under the stewardship of Mr. Larry Fitzgerald. If he were to go under his tutelage, I think that it would benefit Dez Bryant greatly. But like he himself said, it's personal. When you're making personal decisions, you're making bad decisions because you're utilizing personal, emotional energy. So expect Dez Bryant to make a personal, emotional move and try to sign with the New York Giants so he can be with his homeboy, Odell Beckham, and they can try to bring as much chaos and anarchy into the New York Giants locker room and into the division as possible.
It's a difficult fit. The Baltimore Ravens went out and added Crabtree and John Brown, so you wonder if they'd be willing to take on another big personality in Dez Bryant. The Buffalo Bills haven't needed the wide receiver position. That would make some sense too. And I think the Green Bay Packers also could be in play, depending on what happens. They lost Jordy Nelson during the offseason. They went and signed Jimmy Graham at tight end. They have some issues there at the wide receiver position. I think Green Bay could have some interest. We'll see how this plays out. Those would be 4 teams, John, that would make some sense to me, and we'll see whether or not Dez makes sense to them.
And then finally, and this is sort of off the subject, but ultimately, when the catch rule gets changed, does the genesis go all the way back to Dez Bryant in Lambeau, or do we go to Megatron in Chicago?
Or Jesse James in Pittsburgh? There are a number of options that we have. Certainly, Dez is probably the highest profile catch, non-catch of the group. So yes, we could say that Dez Bryant is the godfather of the catch rule, the new and improved catch rule in the NFL, and it goes back to that. And yes, for the record, John, I do believe Dez caught it.
I would agree with that as well. Adam Schefter, always in the know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
All right, so now Adam Schefter stated a lot there. One of the main sentiments that he put forth that I agree with, because I stated it explicitly in my previous video on this topic, is that Dez Bryant should consider signing with the Green Bay Packers. Why is that? Because I believe at this stage in his career, he needs to be with an elite quarterback, or he could go to the Arizona Cardinals and go under the tutelage of Mr. Larry Fitzgerald and learn about the craft so that maybe he can elongate his career, sign a 1 or 2 year contract, and then go and play with a high-profile quarterback and exhibit the skills that he learned. Hopefully he does that, and he does not make the emotional decision that I'm pretty sure he's going to make, which is signing with the New York Giants, or maybe even the Washington Redskins. But I believe it's going to be the New York Giants because he states that he wants to be with a team in the division because, in his words, it's quote-unquote personal. And I think that the brother should leave it alone. It's obvious that he had a lot of love for the team, for the city, and for the lifestyle that it afforded. Being a Dallas Cowboy is different from being a member of any other team in the NFL. Why is that? Because of that glittering star. It brings a lot of glittering coochie. Simple as that. But he's going to have to move past that and get over it. He's going to think about his career. He's approaching 30. at wide receiver in the NFL every year, near or after 30, you're going to have to show that you're able to separate yourself from that new crop of receivers coming in. And the only way that he's going to be able to distinguish himself is to improve his craft. So hopefully the brother Dez Bryant will be able to move past whatever issues he has with Dak Prescott. If he was a wise brother, he would have known that the writing was on the wall in regards to his eventual removal. It was clear that he and Dak Prescott had no connection on the field and very little connection off of it. There was a big gap in age. Dez is 28, 29. Dak is 22, 23, but Dak is very mature for his age, and he is a company man. He is a company man. Dak is not going to let anybody fuck up the vision that he has for himself, including Dez Bryant. He's not going to allow Dez to scream and carry on in his face. He doesn't care how Dez feels. He stated that point blank last year. When asked about Dez Bryant, Dak Prescott stated point blank, "I'll throw to him when he's open." So, it is what it is. Anyway, peace.